So as you can see, I put it in drive, and the vehicle's driving away, very James Bond-like. Hey everybody, Shwayze here, and in today's video, we're gonna be doing a quick overview of the Kia EV6. I'm gonna start off with giving you an exterior walk around, then I'll show you the interior, and then we'll talk about some of the specs that you should probably consider if you're looking at picking up one of these electric vehicles. Now before we get started, I do want to give a huge thank you to the Rocky Mountain Automotive Press for giving us the opportunity to review all of these vehicles. Now unfortunately I didn't get all of the vehicles in today's event on camera, but this was an awesome event, and I'm going to put their information down below so you guys can reach out to them if you have any questions. And also a huge thank you to the manufacturers and press vehicles that were out at today's event for giving us the opportunity to sit behind the wheel and really test drive these vehicles. Okay, so what is the Kia EV6? Well, this is Kia's first of many electric vehicles, and it's based on the same platform as the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and the Genesis GV60. So it's essentially a skateboard platform where you have the batteries down below and you have electric motors powering all four wheels, or you can get this in just a rear-wheel drive setup as well. But we'll talk about that in just a minute. First, I want to talk about the design. This thing looks entirely different than the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and totally different than the Genesis GV60. So what's nice about that is if you don't like the looks of this particular vehicle, you can get this exact same powertrain on a different looking vehicle. And I will say, if you've never seen the Hyundai Ioniq 5, that thing looks completely different. But anyways, I digress. Starting off, you do have headlights over here that are kind of recessed. It almost has like a 3D shape to it. This is a daytime running light that wraps around the headlight. Obviously, you don't need a grille because it's an electric vehicle, but it still carries over the same motif that you find on other Kia models as well. As you can see, you have those LED lights. They look really cool. You've probably seen some of these on the road already because they've been starting to hit dealership lots. Coming over to the side, you do have some cool kind of black plastic over here that molds the wheel, and then everything is for the sake of aerodynamics. So you do have a sloping roofline. It has a more aerodynamic shape to it. Now this is technically a crossover SUV, believe it or not, because in the video and in photos, it doesn't really look like a crossover. It looks kind of like a station wagon or maybe even a sedan, but this is technically considered a crossover. And I will say, in terms of size, this vehicle is pretty large. It's a pretty long vehicle. The wheelbase is actually the same as that in the Kia Telluride. So it's a very long wheelbase, and they've stretched it out towards the corners so you have more interior room. Coming over to the back, this is kind of a controversial or maybe a little bit different in terms of design. You have this LED light that runs all the way across, all the way to the passenger side. And oh, the beeping was just me standing behind the lift gate long enough. If you stand behind it long enough, the lift gate will automatically open. That's a feature that I've seen in other Kias as well. And this is, as you can see, a hatchback type of opening. So you do have a pretty large amount of space back here. So for those of you that want to have kind of more functionality, and you do have a cover over here to cover your belongings should you need to. Now underneath the floor, you do have a little bit of space. It's not very deep, but you do have enough to put like your charging cable and just some little things here and there. Keep in mind, the battery is located under the vehicle, so you're not going to have that much depth. And then you do have the option to lower the second row seats from the third row as well. But let's close this lift gate. Let me show you what it looks like from the back, because like I said, you do have that LED light, and then you have this chrome strip or semi-chrome. It's kind of a brushed aluminum that goes all the way across the bottom, almost like a parallel to the top LED tail light, and then it has this cool texture to it as well. So really nice design styling in my personal opinion, but some people may think this looks a little odd. Now coming over to the passenger side, that's where you have your charging port, and it is electronically released, so I can show you what that looks like on the inside. Now this does have a pretty cool looking deck lid spoiler as well. It has a nice design to it, but as you can see, I am above the vehicle right now, so it's a pretty low crossover. If you're looking for something a little bit bigger or a little bit taller, this is probably not the vehicle for you. Okay, now let's talk about the specs of this vehicle. You can get this in a variety of different options, and that's one of the big selling points of this. You can get this anywhere from as low as 167 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque to 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. And that is this particular vehicle right here. It's the extended range 320 horsepower version. And boy, is it quick. You know, all day today I've been driving internal combustion engines, turbocharged, non-turbocharged, and they're all really quick. They're great engines, but this thing is hands down just the quickest. You know, Kia says 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds, and I believe it. It's probably even quicker than that because of the instant torque, or or at least it feels quicker than 4.5 seconds. Now, if you're curious about range, which is very important, it goes in between 232 miles on the low end and 310 miles on the high end, although Kia says independent testing has gone even above 310 miles. It's a pretty decent amount of range, but it really depends on what trim level you get and what battery size. Kia offers two different batteries. There's a 58 kilowatt, that's the smaller one obviously, and then the 77.4 kilowatt that this one comes with. So if you want the quicker version, you're going to want to go for the larger battery, and you can get this in rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive like I noted earlier. Now, in terms of charging, let me show you what that looks like. Here's the charging port. This is where you plug it in, and this kind of shows you your level. It's a little bit dark right now, but then you can push this button and it will automatically close. Now, Kia actually created a very amazing system. You can actually go from 10 to 80% in just under 18 minutes when you're plugged into a DC fast charger. That's really incredible. That's not that much longer than filling up a tank of gas. So that really kind of reduces the amount of obstacles when you're converting from an internal combustion engine to an electric vehicle. Is if you can charge it a lot quicker, you're likely going to have less stress by buying one of these vehicles. Now, the one caveat to that is finding a DC fast charger that can actually do that, because not all Electrify America stations or charging stations across the US have that functionality. But if you do find that, you can get this charged up pretty quick and continue going on your road trip. Now, in terms of towing capacity, since this is a crossover, it can technically tow. It's 2,300 pounds, which really isn't that bad because some other electric crossovers don't have any type of towing capability. Now, another cool feature I have to show off is not specific to the EV6, but this is something Kia and Hyundai have implemented in other vehicles, and that is the smart park feature. So if you have the Kia key in your hand, you lock the vehicle, you put the push to start, or remote start I should say, and the vehicle turns on. You can't really hear it because it's electric, and then you can use these buttons to control where the vehicle is driving. So as you can see, I put it in drive, and the vehicle is driving away, very James Bond-like, and then I let go and it stops, and then I put reverse, and lo and behold, the vehicle is reversing. So if you want to chase your vehicle or entertain your kids because you don't have the time to, well, you can do that with your Kia. So that's an awesome feature I've seen on other vehicles, but nonetheless, really nice to point out. All right, now let's jump inside and show off the unique interior of the EV6. Now, typically I've seen these door handles pop out, but for some reason, my tester does not have that. They typically, when the vehicle is unlocked, are in this position, so it's easier to grab. Right now, it's kind of got a Tesla Model 3 style, but I think that's just a fluke. Normally, I think they do pop out. Anyways, let's talk about the interior because it is a little quirky, a little modern, a little different, and I like what they did here. So you do have soft touch materials throughout the entire door panel, and then hard touch plastic down over here. Now, this isn't real leather. This is what they call vegan leather, and so no animals are harmed in the creation of this vehicle. You do have your window switches over here, typical Kia items, and then moving in, again, you have vegan leather seats, which are really comfortable. They kind of got a cool design to them. As you can see, they kind of come in and out for the unit, and that looks pretty nice, and they're pretty comfortable to sit in. They do feel a little bit forward, but it's not something you can't get used to. Now let's jump inside because this is where it looks a little bit different than some of your other vehicles. Now, this is typical Kia, which we'll talk about in just a second, but let's talk about some of the materials here. You do have kind of this fabric-like material. I think it's just a plastic or a textured plastic, but it looks like fabric, and it kind of works really well. It gives it kind of a more modern style to it, something similar to what I've seen in like a BMW i3 back in the day. That reminds me of this material. And then you have regular, just hard touch plastic located back there, so kind of a nice contrast. Now, it is a little soft touch, but it's on the rougher end. So if you want this to be like super plush, it's not, but it is nice. It has a little bit of give to it. Now, this whole dashboard is kind of floating because it's not attached to the center arm console. And then this center arm console is floating because there's a giant space over here where you can put a purse or something like that. And there's even a hook over here where you can actually tie your purse or whatever your bag you have, and that way it doesn't just jumble around over here, but it kind of stays in place. But that is a unique center arm console shape to it, as you can see over here at a different angle. And you do have some USB charging ports. You do have some more charging ports over here at the top. Coming up here, this is your gear selector, where you can put into drive or park. There's your engine start stop button, even though there's no real engine. And then these are your heated seats, your cooled seats, and your heated steering wheel for passenger and driver side. This is your wireless charger. These are obviously your cup holders. Again, that same type of material that's carried over on the dash. It's on this center arm console as well. It's a little bit softer here though. And then opening this up, You do have a pretty decent sized compartment over here. I don't see any USB charging ports in here though, but that's fine because you have plenty located down at the bottom. Now over here on the left hand side, this is how you open up your fuel door, and this is how you control your parking brake and your lights. And then the steering wheel, pretty nice. It's kind of reminds me of a Genesis steering wheel in a way. You've got your audio controls over here on the right, and then your cruise control features over here on the left. And Kia and Hyundai have a really good cruise control system where the vehicle will actually monitor the lane and kind of stay within the lane. And in my tests with it, it actually worked really well. I really didn't have to steer the vehicle back into the center, and it didn't bug me that much when my hands were off the steering wheel. Now let's turn the vehicle on and show you what these dual 12.3-inch screens look like. Now, this isn't new to Kia. You guys have seen this before, but something new I saw today in the Kia Sportage, this screen is actually curved. So it's kind of oriented closer towards the driver. Really cool look to it. Gives it kind of a luxurious, almost Cadillac feel. I like that they've curved this screen. Really nice touch. This gives you your charging information. Really nice screen over here. And it is separated from the center screen, but nonetheless, it does seem like it's all one screen because it's got a black bezel to it. This is your typical Kia Hyundai software. Really easy to use. If you guys ever saw my video on the Kia Carnival, this is essentially the same system. So if you guys want more in-depth information on it, I recommend you check out that video, but super snappy, super quick. And then the home screen actually has your battery percentage and your range, which isn't bad considering this is kind of the first attempt from Kia for creating an electric vehicle. And then it does show you different charging ports along the way. So that's really nice to have. Definitely necessary for an electric vehicle. Coming down below, you actually have another touchscreen over here. This is something I saw for the first time in the Kia Sportage, but you have different functionality here. So you can push these buttons, and this is a touchscreen, mind you. This isn't physical buttons, and it will go to the quick access buttons, or you can push this button and it'll actually activate your climate control. But super easy to use. What's nice is this toggle over here can be either the climate control or it can be your radio volume button. So it serves two purposes. And the same goes for the passenger side as well. So I like that they have that dual functionality because likely you're not gonna wanna change the volume and adjust the temperature at the same time. Another couple things to point out is this does not come with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can only get it wired for some reason. And then I did wanna point out down here near the gear selector, you do have your button to turn on the 360 camera. And I showed this on other Kia models, but you have this kind of 360 view. Looks really nice. Just really cool functionality here. This is not something you typically find on a vehicle from Kia or anything like that. You typically find that on luxury vehicles. And then going over to the passenger side, really same nice use of materials. One thing I do want to point out is this particular vehicle or this trim level that I'm driving does not have a sunroof. So that would be nice to have, especially if it could get panoramic. And I believe they do have that as an option. Now let's jump to the rear seats. Let me show you what those look like. Okay, now jumping to the rear seats as the vehicle beeps at me because it's technically on. You do have hard touch plastic over here, so they did do some cost cutting. This is the same vegan leather. This is a soft touch material where you're going to place your elbow. You do have a Meridian sound system here, which is nice. I've listened to it in my wife's vehicle and the sound system sounds great. Now the seats are again the vegan leather. You do have a center armrest over here with two cup holders, which is nice. And then sitting back here, this is where you have plenty of leg room. The vehicle has tons of space over here. Considering this is somewhat of a regular sized crossover, they really did add a lot of space and plenty of headroom as well. So really great job in terms of that. I do like the seat back design. And then you may be asking, well, there's no vents back here. Well, you do have vents over here on the left hand side, which is nice. I kind of prefer them over here so you can actually have it blowing on your face rather than have it down here blowing on your knees. You do have a USB port over here as well. I do wish they had some sort of heated seat option back here, but I'm not seeing that on this trim level. Okay, now finally let's talk about pricing because that's important when you're considering an EV vehicle. The EV6 starts at $41,400, but depending on what trim level and what battery size you can get it equipped up to about $56,400. But within the $40,000 to $60,000 range, it is really competitive with like the Tesla Model Y, Mustang Mach-E, and I will note that Kia is developing a Kia EV6 GT that will have over 550 horsepower, do 0 to 60 in around 3.5 seconds, and be a really close competitor to the Model Y Performance or the Mustang Mach-E GT Performance Edition. So stay tuned for that. But for now, your pricing is between $40,000 to $60,000. All right, everybody. Well, there you have it. That was your quick overview of the Kia EV6. Overall, a really impressive electric vehicle and a great competitor to the Tesla Model Y and Mustang Mach-E, among others. What are your thoughts on the Kia EV6? Would you pick this over the competition, and why? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly videos. And until next time, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day.